everybody. Welcome to Studio 64. My name's David. I've been searching the interzones for some more science, space, and tech news to share with you. And I came across this. That's Science Alert. This should be interesting. Yes, we've probably been wrong about T-Rex again, a new study says. Interesting. Well, there's a very vicious-looking T-Rex. You wouldn't want to come across one of those, would you? No. Yes. Dim-witted dope or brainy brawn, the debate over T-Rex's smarts continues, with a new paper leaning towards the original theory that these fearsome giants weren't all that bright. Oh, the poor things. In 2023, a controversial study suggested one of the world's most infamous dinosaurs, Tyrannosaurus Rex, could be as brainy as modern monkeys, provoking much skepticism from other researchers who've now brought their receipts to the table. This should be interesting. And as I say, I'll always try and leave the link to the main article below the video, so you can pop in, check out the embedded links, go for a bit of a deeper dive if you want. It just makes, quite an interesting read if you want to go further than the main article. Now, the possibility that T-Rex might have been as intelligent as a baboon is fascinating and terrifying, with the potential to reinvent our view of the past, explains University of Southampton paleontologist Darren Naish. But our study shows how all the data we have is against this idea. Now, led by zoologist Kai Kaspar from the Heinrich Heine University in Germany, the new study found that the brain size measurements in the 2023 study were inaccurate. Inflating estimates on the number of neurons in the prehistoric reptiles could fit in their noggin, particularly in the forebrain. Now, this overestimation was primarily due to the original paper assuming T-Rex's brain filled up most of the endocranial space, which isn't true in most dinosaurs, Naish explains in a blog post. Yeah, the inside of the skull, most of it was bone, apparently, with a very little tiny brain, like a lot of people. And, that's interesting. Interesting. There's brain mass on a graph. Little graph there, and little mammals are up here, and birds are here, and T-Rex is about here. That's interesting. Yes, that's the relationship between brain and body mass in land-living vertebrates. Dinosaurs like T-Rex have brain-to-body size ratios similar to those of living reptiles. Cool. Again, not a scientist. Any paleontologists out there, feel free to comment below the video. I just love all science. I love sharing it. It's just my thing. I just love science. Just love sharing with people. So I'm a student of all sciences, so I like to learn as much as I can, whether it's astronomy, astrology, paleontology, marine biology, anything. Material science, I just love it all. Computer science, it's fascinating to me. I love how they all interact too. So if you're talking, for argument's sake, as an analogy, going to space isn't just about astronomy. It requires aerospace engineers and, exobiologists talking about possibilities of life, exogeologists talking about the type of rock formations on other planets, aerospace engineers, mechanical engineers, electronic engineers, computer scientists. I love the cross-discipline stuff. It's absolutely incredible to me. What's more, Kaspar and his colleagues argue that neuron counts do not reliably track with intelligence. Take birds, for instance. It was long assumed that their small head sizes meant they had fewer neurons and therefore weren't very smart. But we've since learned birds like crows can outperform primates on certain cognitive tasks despite their smaller heads. Did a video on that recently. Check it out. Leading to the conclusion that factors other than brain size, like connectivity patterns, play a larger role in determining intelligence. Yeah, that video on the crows was literally counting crows. The crows can count. Fascinating. It's very much like a toddler, but they can still count. It's just amazing. Yes, and here's a little video on paleontologists say that science was wrong about T-Rex yet again. And I think we should watch that little video. We'll check that out, and then we'll carry on the conversation when we come out the other side.
Dinosaurs ruled the Earth long before even our distant ancestors. However, despite previous studies suggesting that these prehistoric behemoths were, well, dumb, especially the likes of T-Rex, a study in 2023 suggested the Tyrannosaurus may have been quite intelligent after all. Tiny arms, but big-brained. That was the consensus just a year ago, with the researchers saying that T-Rex may have even been as smart as modern-day primates. However, a new study presents a renewed argument for the pea-brained hypothesis, taking the Tyrannosaurus back to the Cretaceous. According to the researchers, quote, "The possibility that T-Rex might have been as intelligent as a baboon is fascinating and terrifying, with the potential to reinvent our view of the past. But our study shows how all the data we have is against this idea." So what went wrong in 2023? Well, the researchers say that the T-Rex brain size calculations weren't accurate, wrongly inflating neuron numbers specifically in the forebrain. That's because those researchers determined incorrectly that its brain would have filled the entirety of the cranial space. Other paleontological data points to that not being the case for most dinosaurs, meaning it's likely also not the case for T-Rex. Even still, the researchers say that neuron count and brain size is not necessarily a good indicator of intelligence in the first place, saying the Tyrannosaurus was more akin in intelligence to a smart giant crocodile rather than a primate.
Well, that was absolutely amazing. I love that stuff. It just fascinates me. I just think it's great. You know, love dinosaurs. Just love dinosaurs. Always have since I was a kid. Never grew out of it. We argue that it's not good practice to predict intelligence in extinct species when neuron counts reconstructed from endocasts are all we have to go on, says Caspar. Yep. Simple solution. Invent a time machine. And then go back in time and check out and see how smart Tyrannosaurus Rex is. Then when the scientific world really sits up and starts to take notice of you, you can jolly well tell them what to do, make sure they get everything right, and there'll never be any doubt anymore about T-Rex's intelligence. Simple. I don't know why people haven't thought of it before. Fascinating. Instead, multiple lines of evidence from anatomy to clues about behavior and more comparisons with modern animals are required to make more accurate estimates on prehistoric intelligences. Now, a substantially improved understanding of the relationship between neuron counts and other biological variables, especially cognitive performance in extant animals, is required. Before more accurate predictions can occur, the team argues in their paper, which, as I said, you can find there with the embedded link. So, as I say, leave the link to the main article below the video. Pop in and check it out yourself. Yes, the cognitive performance. What if he's had a bad night, the poor old T-Rex? You know, there he is there. What if he had a bad night? He had a bit of a rough tummy or something and his cognitive prowess was down. I don't know how that feels. It's a bit sad. Yes. The relationships between reptile groups, along with a representation of their brain complexity, showing tyrannosaurid brains are not so different from those of crocodilomorphs. Yes, there we go. Interesting. Interesting indeed. Yeah. Huh. Wow. That's cool. I love that. So where does that leave the T-Rex? Recent behavioural clues do suggest the infamous prehistoric reptiles may have surprisingly been social hunting in packs, but that's not enough to suggest primitive level intelligence. They were more like smart giant crocodiles, and that's just as fascinating, concludes Naish. This research was published in the Anatomical Record. Yeah, very interesting indeed. Good old Tyrannosaurus Rex. Yeah, it would be interesting to wonder, though, on a planet, and I've wondered this before. I know it's science fiction, but it goes back to that early to mid-80s, 83, 84 miniseries V, where these aliens came down, and turns out they were reptilian. They were only about 100 years ahead of us technologically, but the reason they were so advanced is technically, I believe the dinosaurs, or maybe volcanoes. There's a new theory about volcanoes wiping out the dinosaurs. But the standard theory at the moment is a meteor came down and just wiped the dinosaurs out. This particular planet with these visitors, that they're called, honey, where have I heard that before these days? Newcomers. That was it. Newcomers. Yes. They they didn't have that. And so reptiles became the dominant species on the planet. And they didn't also have a dark age like we had on the in Earth civilization. Dark age, as in going on to the Renaissance and everything else, where science and learning was, bloody Catholics, held back, right? Because science and learning was considered blasphemous or whatever the case is. Anybody knows more about that? Throw it in the comments below, please. So with that, they didn't have a dark age, these aliens. Plus the fact they didn't have the dinosaurs that were wiped out. Their reptiles weren't wiped out, so the reptiles became the dominant species and developed intelligence and everything else. But they were humanoid dinosaurs, funnily enough, or humanoid reptiles. Interesting. Again, science fiction, not true, but it's interesting just to think about it and go, what if man wasn't the dominant species on this planet? We'd be probably a lot better off. I tell you what, aliens would want to visit us then. Aliens wanting to visit Earth, I think, is science fiction, because they look at the human beings and what we do. They've only got to bloody hijack a Wi-Fi signal and see what we watch on Netflix. And they go, no goddamn way are we going back. We're going anywhere near that planet. I've seen reality TV. Warning, warning. They've got the alien spaceship with a GPS going, warning, warning, you're getting too close to Earth. Quick. Go in the other direction quickly. Fascinating. All right, well, my name is David. Thanks for joining me for another Studio 64 Science, Space and Tech News update. I shall see you in the next one. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe. I'd greatly appreciate it. If you're up for it, drop a comment down below the video, because I'd love to hear what you think. All right, take care, and as I always say, if you can't be good at it. And as I also always say,
I'll be back.